welcome to the broadcast. I'm Ash, also known as Fun Acceptable Views on X, and with me are my conspiratorial co-hosts, Tammy, aka Unacceptable Canadian Girl, and Suze, aka Suze Creamy. Hello, girls. Are you ready to have a laugh today?
Hello,
Laugh?
hello.
Why are we laughing? Don't laugh at that.
We are laughing because it's April Fool's today when we record this.
Well, obviously I was joking, bitches. April Fools.
Also with us is our favorite researcher, Dave, aka Jamie on this podcast, aka Perception Correction. Hello.
Hello. Pleasure to be here. That's all I got.
All right. So as we mentioned, it's April Fool's Day as we record this episode. So we actually have a very special guest on today to discuss what a joke our country is. Welcome, Petrified COVID Parent.
Thank you. Yeah, happy to be here. It's a pleasure. It's an honor. You guys are doing a great job. I'm a fan of all the episodes so far. You guys you're entertaining and you're informative and you question a lot of stuff. So I'm here for it all. I'm really enjoying the show. Happy to be here.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thanks so much.
I do have a question. I want to know how many masks you have on.
Well, I have 6 masks on, but I did hear that you guys were talking about laughing earlier, and I want to be very clear that laughter is a super spreader event. So you need to lock that up right now, or you guys will all be dead by sunrise, unless you're wearing 6 masks like I am. I will not be laughing this entire episode, by the way.
Stop speaking moistly, people.
We're dying. We're dying tonight.
All right, so
woman
COVID
to
parent. Oh,
Sorry, I just want to say a woman to that. Thank you.
A woman, nice. I love it. Right on.
So, COVID parent, you are the king of parody on X. So, for those in our audience who may not be familiar with your persona, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Right. So, in real life, I'm pretty average person. I'm living in Southern Ontario here, not quite in the center of the universe, but close to it. Husband, father, like just sick of the COVID stuff when it was happening. So I decided to start this account. I've noticed that in real life, I'm talking to people about how insane I thought everything was. And I just had a small audience. We were all locked down. We couldn't go to a bar and talk about it. We couldn't go to a restaurant, playground. The government, obviously had our best interest by keeping locked down and away from all other human beings. So I couldn't really reach anybody. So I thought of starting a Twitter account to try and go on and change hearts and minds on there. But when I got on Twitter, I actually found there was this huge community. I had a Twitter account from before. I still have it from like 15 years ago. It's a small account. It's got like 100 followers, but I knew how the platform worked. So I wanted to go on there and see if I could recruit people. And then here you all were. And I found an army of people on Twitter who kind of agreed with me, which was great. So I continued trying to, make jokes and raise awareness and be sarcastic and kind of poke holes in the narrative. And then it kind of got like depressing. I started getting these. I had a teeny tiny account, a couple hundred followers, and I started getting these DMs from people who were saying things like, "Thanks for the laughs. Here's my story." And it was really hard to read some of this stuff. It was people who were like, it was relationships failing, losing their homes, jobs, obviously, kids having a hard time, kids like withdrawing as they were hitting teenage years. They started withdrawing from everything. It was really kind of depressing. So I ended up doing the parody thing for a while and just trying to get people laughing. Like maybe I thought maybe this will actually help people if I'm getting this many messages from randoms that I don't know. Maybe we can just have some laughs and I'll have a good time while we're locked down. So I did that for a while and then just basically kept it going. Became parodied like nonstop of the government, which is really easy to parody, especially here in Canada because our government is a joke. Happy April Fool's Day, by the way. The biggest April Fool is Justin Trudeau in this country. It's insane. So it's not hard to make fun of this government. So that became kind of my hobby. And then now fast forward, the pandemic kind of behind us, I guess. My character wouldn't say that, but I'll say that. And so now I started Trudeau's Ego as well, trying to just basically get people to do the same thing, to ask questions about the government and say, something doesn't pass the smell test here. So much material already goes naturally. So Been a lot of fun. I'm glad I met everybody. I'm glad everyone's on stage. And it's been a riot at Justin Trudeau's expense. So it's been a fun ride.
Awesome. Well, you are one of my favorite accounts on Twitter, and you do brighten my day all the time. Just so the audience at home understands, COVID Parent's actually in the middle of a climate crisis right now. His power's out because of the wind. So there were a couple times where he was a little bit, his voice was a little pixelated, but hopefully you can stay with us if you pay your carbon tax in the next 5 minutes.
I was going to say, if people in my neighborhood would pay their climate taxes, I would be clearer on the audio, but someone hasn't paid their climate taxes around here. That's the problem.
I think you used a plastic utensil today.
Yeah. You should all go out with pitchforks and hunt down the person. So, since it's April Fool's Day, I thought it would be apropos to discuss not just what a joke our country is, because that's all we talk about on this podcast, but also the vital role that comedy actually plays in society. One of the most human experiences that we have is the ability to laugh and make others laugh. It's how we connect to each other in a very meaningful way and provides a necessary outlet for stress relief in our crazy lives. Our ability to laugh at ourselves and our world around us actually helps us to understand situations from a different perspective. And comedy or satire can be used to break the tension, but also explore otherwise very dark or taboo subjects. And so comedy is inextricably tied to politics, and for good reason. The use of satire can help highlight incongruencies in public policy and also poke holes in illogical rules and regulations that are being placed on our citizens. So if you actually look back through history, you can trace the crucial role comedy has played in helping to change policy and guide rulers to be more fair in their decision making. And one way you can see this is through jesters. They used to be a common occurrence in the courts of emperors, kings, sultans, dukes, caliphs, tsars, the occasional Kaiser.
SARS.
SARS.
Excuse me?
There we go. There's some predictive programming for you. Yeah. And so the thing that jesters did is that they could voice disagreement while others couldn't. And they could use humor to point out shortcomings or maybe even use bluntness, which might be seen as a welcome change for rulers constantly being surrounded by ass-kissing courtiers. They helped to entertain the courts, but they also kept the rulers in check. So I have sort of a theory that as totalitarianism rises in a society, a clampdown on comedy inevitably occurs because it's too easy to point out the hypocrisy of the ruling class. And rulers don't want to be reminded of their wrongdoings, and they certainly don't want them highlighted. So I believe that authoritarianism and censorship go hand in hand. And unfortunately, that's what I think we're seeing today with the censoring of important ideas in Western society. So that's kind of where I wanted to go down the rabbit hole I wanted to go down this evening. And like, what do you guys think about that? Do you agree with that sort of idea? Do you think there is some comedy that should be censored? Like, is there a line? Where do you guys think we're at there?
I don't think comedy should be censored at all. And I also think we all need to get Mr. Trudeau a fucking jester immediately. Immediately.
Get him a jester's costume. He's the jester.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's not a very good jester.
I think that comedy is needed at all times. And like, I'm a huge fan. I know some people aren't, but I'm a huge fan of dark humor. Like, you can basically tell me the worst shit ever and I'll find a way to laugh about it. It's just how I handle things, I guess. But I find life a lot easier with comedy. And like, that's kind of why I came to X and started doing what I was doing too, because it was just easier to make people laugh.
Mm-hmm.
And like, the world's shit.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like, the world's shit. Like, we need to laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I totally agree. Nothing should be, I don't think there's any reason why comedy should be censored. And it totally does open up doors, right, to dialogue. You can get people, you kind of disarm people by by making some jokes, having some laughs, and then you can talk about the real issues. It's not hate speech. It's not wrong think. It's super constructive. If you disarm yourself a little bit and have a joke and just and relax, you can get into the political realm for sure. That's pretty easy, but you can get into the more taboo, darker stuff that maybe people aren't willing to talk about. A couple jokes here and there, and it opens the door. I think it's super effective.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And we've had a few times where COVID parent, you've done it and I've done it, where we've tweeted out some stuff and then we've messaged the other one and been like, too soon.
Yeah. Yeah, whenever there's a world event that happens, like there's always some humor that I want to make sure no one's dead or whatever first. But yeah, sometimes it's dark, but still, it's even if we don't feel like it's the right time, it doesn't mean it should be censored. There's never any aspect of comedy that should be censored, in my opinion. I think it's a valuable tool.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm pretty sure every time you've sent me one of those messages, I'm like, nope.
It's never too soon.
Yeah, very true. This is a true story. Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Jamie?
I personally think that you can't just come out if you're that totalitarian regime and just flat out censor comedy. So you have to tiptoe towards it. So that's where enforcing political correctness or making that seem like it's something noble or the proper way
compassion.
To act. Yeah. So then you start implementing political correctness that'll segue into comedy, just naturally getting censored. So yeah, so like I don't know, I'm the type of person that grew up on dead baby jokes. And like the left has now taken steps to vote for policies that actually produce dead babies. So
yeah,
actually, you're not
touche.
Right?
So I don't know. We just have to be aware of our surroundings and just the smallest inconsequential policy or step in a certain direction could lead to a far larger outcome as far as I'm concerned.
100%.
Yeah, I agree with that. And so something that we are all now we're starting to have to deal with is the new bill C-63 that's come out, and that's Trudeau's online harms bill. It's basically something that they're using to clamp down on hate speech.
I'm going right to jail.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Everybody in here we're all going to be in the same cell block. Like we're done. It's over.
We'll have some bouncy castles too.
I call top bunk.
Yeah. So just for any of the listeners who don't know about Bill C-63 that's coming down the pipeline, basically, I'm going to read from, there's an account that I really like. Her name is Christine Van Gyn, and she's part of the CCF, which is the Canadian Constitution Foundation, I believe. And so I like to watch her videos on different things because she comes from a litigation background, and so she can really break things down in an easy to understand manner, but also she knows what she's talking about. So basically, she said, the Online Harms Act would limit constitutionally protected expression in the following ways. The bill would create a new process for individuals and groups to complain to the Canadian Human Rights Commission that online speech directed at them is discriminatory. Sorry. The tribunal could order fines of up to $50,000 and awards of up to $20,000 paid to complainants who in some cases would be anonymous. Can you believe that? So you could have a complaint, but you could remain anonymous. Findings would be based on a mere, in air quotes, balance of probabilities standard rather than the criminal standard of proof beyond a reasonable doubt.
Vicky Campbell is coming for all of us.
The subjectivity of defining hate speech will lead to punishments for protected speech. The mere threat of human rights complaints will chill large amounts of protected speech. The bill would increase the maximum sentence for advocating genocide from 5 years in prison to life in prison. That means words alone could lead to life imprisonment. The bill would allow judges to put prior restraints on people who they believe on reasonable grounds may commit speech crimes in the future. So you just on your feels could say, I think that they're going to say something mean to me in the future, and then you could be that could be grounds, reasonable grounds. The accused would be forced to choose between imprisonment or a recognizance to keep the peace that may be accompanied by severe conditions such as giving a bodily sample, refraining from drugs and alcohol, giving up firearms, and wearing an ankle monitor. And also, I believe, I don't see this here, but she mentioned like not being able to use the internet. The bill would require social media companies to minimize the risk that users of the service will be exposed to harmful content, with a threat of massive fines if they don't properly mitigate the risk. Social media companies will likely err on the side of caution and block large amounts of speech that is close to the legal line. The bill would require social media companies to provide a mechanism for users to flag content that they believe is harmful content, which is defined as including speech that foments hatred. This will inevitably lead to censorship of legally protected speech. The bill would require social media companies to report on how they dealt with perfectly legal but otherwise harmful content that the operator had reasonable grounds to believe posed a risk of significant psychological or physical harm. This appears aimed at encouraging social media companies to censor speech that the government cannot outlaw. So there we go, folks.
Absolutely insane. That is so far reaching. It is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And I don't understand why it's so hard for people to understand that just because I say something that you hate does not make it hate speech.
Yeah.
Does not make it
Right.
hateful.
Speech
it just means
that-
that
yeah.
you hate it.
You
That's
hate it. Yeah.
That's it.
And this is one of the most important things I think about comedy in general, is that I don't like everything that comes out there, like every joke that comes out there. You hone your, whatever your sense of humor is based on whatever your lifestyle is. And, if there's something that you don't think is funny, you don't listen to it. Like,
Yeah,
there's lots
exactly.
of stand-up comedians that I'm not interested in, and then there's lots of stand-up comedians that I love that I know other people wouldn't particularly like to hear from. So, I mean, that's fine. Just don't listen.
I agree completely.
Yeah.
It's like scrolling through Twitter. You don't have to comment. You can just shut the fuck up and keep on scrolling. That's an option.
Yeah.
For
Exactly.
anybody that's listening, if you didn't know that's an option, that's an option.
Yeah, Ash, I totally agree. Like instead of government censorship trying to decide what's politically correct for everybody, why don't we make our own decisions? Like I understand, we were talking about baby jokes and stuff. That was funny. That was happening when I was growing up too.
Me
If you
too,
don't
yeah.
like them, you don't have to listen to them. You don't have to scroll and comment on it. You can just bypass it. You can just not listen to those jokes or choose to not find it funny. But we don't need the government coming in and telling us that you can go to jail for something that one person thinks is hate speech. I think it's way too far reaching. It's crazy. I'm surprised more people aren't like very, very upset about this.
Because I think most people don't even understand the magnitude of it.
Agreed.
Yeah, and I did read that thing that Christine posted as well, Ash, that you were reading. I read that, and there was one word in there that the accuser can be anonymous. So yeah, it can be Vicky Campbell.
Terrifying.
It can be your neighbor. Does that mean it could be the government and they just don't tell anybody? Like,
Right.
This is way too far. Oh, power's back on. Hang on. Let me get back on the Wi-Fi, but keep talking.
Climate emergency over. COVID parent, you can have your accounts unfrozen now. The emergency is over.
I paid my climate taxes. Yeah, we're back to normal now. All's well, guys.
But part of the problem, I think, we can get into protected classes because I definitely want to go down there. But I mean, the thing is, most of the left are the ones who say the most hateful things. Like, you get into like some of the, the trans people who talk about TERFs, and they literally talk about murdering
Mhm.
TERFs. So,
Oh yeah, they go next level. When we went to that million-person march, remember in September,
mhm.
and like all those, they were shooting out nothing but hateful remarks.
Yeah.
Like every dirty word you could possibly think of under the sun. And there were like some kids around too, right? And we're just like, let kids be kids, and we're like, I thought we were the hateful ones. I don't get it.
Yeah.
They were like nasty people.
Yeah, and what one of them said, like, I hope you die, old man, or something. Like, just
Yeah.
like, that's literally that's a death threat.
Like literally. But no, that's okay. I said it because they were spewing out hate speech. Now take them to jail.
Yeah, and I think a big part of the problem with this online harms bill is that, like most bills that they try and push through, it's insidious because there are some valid issues that would be nice to have some regulations around for sure, like with child porn and whatnot. But the problem is that then they wrap up other things with it, like this, the where feelings get involved, like, oh, you hurt my feelings, and so that's hate speech. Well, if the bill alone was just about, say, child porn, well, maybe we could come to some agreement on that. But then they wrap in other things that, well, if you don't agree with this bill, then you're okay with child porn. No, I just don't want free speech being tampered with. So
Yeah, and Ash, that's exactly what's happening with this bill. When you see the Attorney General talking about it in Canada, he's wrapping it up as protecting kids online. We all want to protect kids online. I think social media should be illegal for children. Like, yeah, I understand there's lots of harms and there's lots of manipulation that can go on there. But he's wrapped up in this pretty little bow and trying to sell it to Canadians, and people buy it.
and part of the problem too is that I mean, this is already illegal. Child porn is already illegal. And so it's a weird thing that, I mean, can't we just extend those laws? Like, why do we have to create something new? I don't know. Maybe I don't know enough about the legal side of things to understand that, but I mean, they're already illegal. So I don't know how they're not already protected under those laws.
Yeah, but if you want to have more power
something-
to arrest people who speak ill of you, then this is exactly what you do. You arrest dissidents and silence opposition voices. This is what you do. So as long as you make it sound nice to the Canadian public, then people buy into it.
Yeah, absolutely. So something that I alluded to before and that I do want to get into is just the idea of protected classes. And like I mentioned, especially in my opinion, the sort of the trans group, not so much the LGBs, but the trans group I find is a very difficult group for me as a woman, because I find a lot of their messages very forceful. And like, I'm okay with, if you want to dress up like a woman, I'm fine with that. Just leave the kids alone. And as long as you're not infringing on other people's rights. But what I find is that with what's happening to women, we're having our sports taken away from us. We're having our private spaces taken away from us. So we're now being directly affected. How is it okay that we're called hateful for pushing back on something like this?
That's a great question. That's it. That's the $1 million question, right? And this is, again, like you were saying, Ash, this is where comedy can be useful. A couple of little jokes here and there. I find that there's a lot of people in the LGB portion of that acronym who love making jokes about themselves, about their own sexual orientation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny. They get people talking about stuff. But then you suddenly cross this line when you hit the T, and any discussion is forbidden. Any talk of your priority, you said just keep it away from kids. That's hate speech. There's no joking about this. This is a hard line. Yeah. But we're erasing women here. Like, this would be a good subject to talk about. Why don't we talk about this? This is a good opportunity to make some jokes. Let's get the discussion rolling. But once you cross that line from the B, like, there's no humor. There's no joking. It's, if you say anything, I'm going to murder you and your family and burn your house down.
Right. And then if this new online harms bill passes, then that will be deemed hate speech, and we could go to jail or be fined like an exorbitant amount of money for just expressing our opinions, or even if you were to use humor as a way to kind of like the satire you can use to point out the inconsistencies or the hypocrisies. I mean, it's an important form of expression. And so like, how is that even going to be? That should not be allowed. And actually, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's a game called Cards Against Humanity, and it is a
I love that game. That is hilarious. A few beers and Cards Against Humanity is a great time.
Yeah. And I mean, all of the cards in the whole deck are offensive. That is the point of the game. And I actually, one of my aunts, she actually lost her husband. It was a very sad time. It was right around Christmas. And so we invited her to come and spend Christmas with my family. And for we weren't sure what to do, but we ended up pulling out Cards Against Humanity. And all of us had one of the best nights. We were laughing so hard, and she was ripping it up. She was killing it with her cards. And like the release of tension from all of the sadness and, all of the dark that comes from those troubling times, it was just erased in an evening because everything was just, you know, everything was on the table. You know, there was nothing that was off limits to make jokes about, and it really, really helped in that difficult time to just have
Betsy,
some
that's a great
jokes and have
example.
enough.
Even at a really sensitive, even at a really triggering time for your aunt or whatever, it was super delicate. In that
Mhm.
moment, she was still having a great time. She was laughing, having fun, talking with people. That's what humor can do. That's
Yeah.
why, it's important to not censor this, because even when someone's at their lowest or having a really difficult go of it, you can still, have a great time and learn some things and have some laughs.
Yeah, and I do think that, I mean, you even see this with veterans where, they get to have a pretty dark sense of humor because when you see some of the worst things that humanity does to each other, you have to find a way to move forward, and humor can be one of those methods to get you through, and so there is a real function to humor. And Cards Against Humanity actually, I've heard that they've pulled a few cards since, but I know that the very first card they pulled was the card Passable Transvestite.
Oh my God.
And they had so much backlash from the community that they had to pull that out. But I mean, they have some horrible cards in the deck. So my thing is like, so if you're pulling out Passable Transvestite, which in my opinion isn't even that bad, then are you saying that kids with ass cancer is okay? Because that's a horrible card, you know?
That's exactly what they're saying.
Yeah. So it's like either you have to be able to make fun of everybody across the board or don't have the game at all. You can't pull a card.
Well, that's the thing, right? Free speech is only free if it's really free. Like if there's limits on free speech and there's censorship, it's not free anymore. As long as you're not harming other people or whatever, if there's limits on free speech, it's not free.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, there's definitely a clause when we play. Like if you get a card you don't like, because some of them are horrible, you get another card, you just don't use that one.
Wait a minute. So you guys censor yourself without the government censoring you? I don't understand. I don't understand how you do that. Okay.
Oh, daddy government, please tell me what to do. Another example of this, I would say, well, obviously J.K. Rowling out there with the Harry Potter novels, like she's been speaking out for women's rights, and she's been treated like crazy harshly by the trans community. And I mean, she's not saying things in a humorous way, but the kind of like the first start of the backlash was when she just mentioned in like an ironic way, they were talking about people who menstruate, and she said, "Oh, there used to be a term for that. What was that? Wumpin, Wumpman? I don't remember what it was." And so she was even using irony at the time to point out how silly that is, that you're saying women who menstruate or whatever, something like that. And so, that is how you kind of get your point across, is by using humor. And she just got, I mean, she's been dragged over the coals for years.
But it was fucking
Yeah. Yeah. And then Dave Chappelle is another example. Have any of you watched Dave Chappelle's The Closer?
Yes, ma'am.
Not his latest stuff. I used to watch him all the time back in the day, and he was always pretty edgy, but it was funny. But I haven't seen his latest stuff, no.
Well, the Closer's not from that long ago, was it, Ash?
No, I think it's from like 20. Well, it's after the lockdown, so maybe like 2022.
Post-COVID, yeah.
Yeah. And he has a segment in it where he talks about someone who was a friend of his, and this is somebody named Daphne, and Daphne was a trans person, and Daphne would show up to every single one of his shows in the sort of like San Francisco area, and there Daphne would be almost every night, laughing the hardest, even at the trans jokes. And so him and Daphne actually became good friends because Daphne, what that person loved comedy. It didn't matter if it was about trans people or what. Daphne was there to laugh. And so, yeah, he actually even ended up inviting Daphne to open one of his shows for him, and Daphne
She wanted-
was thrilled. What was that, Suze?
yeah, she was like an aspiring comedian, like that. Like she wanted to do
Yes.
comedy herself. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, and so Daphne got a chance to go up, and apparently Daphne bombed, but it didn't matter because after Daphne did Daphne's act, Daphne sat down. I'm saying Daphne specifically instead of a pronoun, just so you know. And then Dave Chappelle did his act, and Daphne and him had a back and forth throughout the rest of the evening, and it just got funnier and funnier and funnier. And so Daphne ended up kind of like redeeming the bombing on stage just by kind of the back and forth with Dave. And so they just had this really nice friendship together. And the trans community hated it, and they hated Dave, and they hated his special Sticks and Stones. And Daphne actually came out and spoke out in favor of Dave. And basically, what do I have here? Daphne said, punching down on someone requires you to think less of them, and I know him, and he doesn't. He doesn't punch up, he doesn't punch down. He punches lines, and he's a master at his craft. And so when it meant a lot to Dave that Daphne actually like stood up for him at that time, because it's a pretty tough crowd on that side. And if you go against the narrative, you're pretty much dragged over the coals. And Daphne actually ended up committing suicide like 6 days later.
Yeah, because she was then
Yeah.
treated like absolute garbage by her so-called people.
Own people. Yeah.
It was
So,
sad, actually, very sad.
mhm. And something that Dave mentioned in the closer, he said about comedy, he said, it's art, and you're free to interpret this art however you like. But I can tell you, as the maker of this art, that I don't believe that I feel that way. So, you know, you can tell jokes and know that it's well crafted, but it doesn't mean you actually believe those things.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, it's art like anything else. Do you think that actors who go on stage and play like, well, maybe Hollywood's a bad example because most of them are evil.
But
Yeah, but anyhow, it's just another example of just this very totalitarian sort of rule where you're not allowed to joke about these specific people, and it's a problem, in my opinion.
If I may,
Yes, Jamie.
what if we just to avoid punishment from this bill, this C-63, just after we said everything, we added allegedly, or just joking, every single time? Would that not just be the mother of all loopholes, and then we can never get in trouble?
well, now you just told them our plan.
But jokes will not be allowed, though. You can't just say just joking.
Got it.
Maybe allegedly. In theory, if one were to think this way.
Exactly.
I'm just pontificating here, but okay, so now I kind of wanted to go a little bit darker, just a little further into the trans side of stuff, because I have a real problem with the idea that you're not allowed to talk about certain things, but the science on the trans ideology is not settled. There's a very strong narrative saying that, if you don't let your child transition, you'll have a dead child type thing. But
Yeah.
there's no proof that this is actually the case. And so they're trying to shut down free speech and not allow us to talk about these things. But at the same time, if you're to look into, say, the David Reimer story, you can see that the trans ideology doesn't always work out as they think it will. Tammy, did you have a chance to look at the David Reimer documentaries?
Yeah, I watched I think it was like the 10-minute one from Spiked or something. It was pretty sad.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Honestly, it's disturbing. It's disturbing that it even happened. I don't understand where the parents' heads were at to I mean, like I guess they wanted to help their son, but to think that ever that changing his gender was a good idea is it blows my mind, to be honest. And then the sexual abuse that both of those twins went through at the hands of John Money is just it's unreal. It's unreal.
Mm-hmm. So if we can back up a little bit, basically the story is that there's a man by the name of John Money, and he actually created the concept of gender in the 1950s, and he studied intersex children. So this is children who are born with both genitalia. And so he had a gender identity clinic at Johns Hopkins in Baltimore. And his belief was that male and female was a social construct. And so through some of his studies, he basically was trying to prove that the nature versus nurture debate was put to rest, because he said that if you nurtured the children in a certain way, it would override nature and they could be whatever gender they they were nurtured to be. And so like this is, I think, a really important point, that John Money only created the concept of gender in the 1950s. That's not that long ago. We've known about sexes for
Much longer.
much longer since the dawn of time. And so basically what happened in the David Reimer case is that he was born as Bruce, a little boy in Winnipeg. He was a twin. His brother's name was Brian. And David actually, when he was undergoing circumcision, there was a problem. They turned up the instrument too high, and he had his penis burnt off. And so his parents heard about John Money's experiments with turning boys into girls, and they decided to make an appointment with him to see about changing David into who was actually born as Bruce. This is a little confusing, but okay, so little Bruce, who became later David. But basically, they with John Money, they turned Bruce into a Brenda, and he was raised from diapers into as a little girl. But he rejected the dresses. He preferred peeing standing up, and so he had to continually go with his brother to these appointments with John Money. And I don't know, it took some dark turns. Suze, did you want to touch on that a little bit?
They even castrated him. Like they
Yeah.
completely took everything away so that he would never, get older and question it, because John Money actually lied and told the parents, don't you ever tell him the truth, or this won't work. He won't accept that he's a girl if he knows what really happened, right?
Yeah.
And it's sad as hell, because he's going to these appointments with his brother, and I think it was the very first one. I can't remember how old they were, where it seemed like, Brenda was understanding that, Brenda was a girl and blah, blah, blah. But then as the appointment went on, you could tell that he was rebelling and not really happy with his life. He didn't want to play with girl things. He wanted to play with his brother. He wanted to play boy things. He was just naturally feeling very much like a boy. And then in school had zero friends, because the girls didn't want to play with Brenda because she was different, and boys didn't want to play with a girl. So we lived a very, very lonely life. And here you got John Money, I think at the age of 7, when David was 7, telling him, now talking about specifically how it's the genitalia is what like makes a boy and a girl different. And now trying to convince a 7-year-old to have an actual like surgery down there to make an actual vagina. And it's like, this child is 7 and you're even having this conversation with the 7-year-old. It's disgusting.
Yeah. And so John Money, there are a lot of transcripts where they can see exactly what he said during his appointments. There are actually 2 years of transcripts that are missing. They've gone missing. And who is the person who is now David was Brenda. And his brother Brian both said that during those 2 years, the doctor was getting them to take off their clothes and mimic sexual acts with each other because he was trying to teach them how to be, I guess, trying to teach Brenda how to be a girl. And so he was taking photographs of them naked and performing these, mimicking these sexual acts. But the hospital says that that never happened and they don't have the documents. So
conveniently, they don't have anything.
Yeah. So when he was 14, Brenda stopped living as a girl. He actually threatened to commit suicide if he had to go back and see John Money. And so the parents finally decided, like, our child's not happy. This is failed. We can't keep going on with this lie. And so at the age of 16, the dad told Brenda, who's now David, the truth. So at 14, Brenda said, I don't want to do this anymore and I'm not going back to that doctor. And it still took them 2 years to actually tell him the truth. And so he decided to rename himself David and live his life as a man again. And he actually ended up having his breasts removed because he was on estrogen. And so he had surgery to remove the breasts and live life as a man. The problem is that John Money the whole time was saying that this wasn't a success. He hid all of these truths from the world, and a lot of medical papers were created saying that this was a total success, and they had no idea that all of this was going on behind the scenes.
And look what that has done now. Look where we are now.
Yeah. And Brian ended up committing suicide. He OD'd on antidepressants, and David ended up committing suicide by shooting himself with a shotgun. So that is such a dark story. And this is the science. Dr. John Money's science is what most of the transgender studies are based on. So this is what we're not allowed to joke about.
That's super sad.
Yeah.
A lot of people have no idea about this John Money story. Like, they have no clue.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about this. Tammy brought me up to speed a few days ago. I didn't know the story and where this all started, obviously, but I didn't even know anything about this doctor. But using children I understand that you're an eager medical professional or something like that, but just because you have these radical ideas, these poor kids have grown up to kill themselves. Like, that's brutal. But, people talk about, everyone's always curious about why this is being pushed on so many kids right now. And there's a lot of literature out there about how there's a huge economy behind this, which I didn't even really realize until I started looking into it. Like, there's a lot of money to be made here. And you're telling me this guy's last name was Money? This is real?
Yeah.
The irony is killing me.
Yeah, I know. The craziness of the irony that we're dealing with in these times is just, it's head shaking. Like, COVID Parent, I mean, how hard is it for you to write your parodies anymore? Like, do you even have to try?
Honestly, most of the time you can copy and paste Justin Trudeau and it's funny. If it just doesn't come from him, what he's saying is hilarious. So yeah, there's not much effort required.
Like, I even sent you that thing earlier today about the UN, an ambassador for the UN talking about how climate change affects Black trans people more than other types of people.
Are you? That's a joke. That's a joke, right?
No, it's not. It's not a joke.
No. She's real, and not only that, it was a video, and there was someone on camera saying this. It's real. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. It's not parody. It should be. I could just copy and paste that and it would be parody.
Exactly. Well, that's why people post things. People post things, and you're like, okay, it looks like parody, but like nothing shocks us anymore. We're like, is it parody though?
Well, even Elon, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Tammy, you've been quiet over there. Do you have anything to add?
No, I was just kind of listening to the story.
Jamie, what about you, Jamie? Where's my joint, Jamie?
I'd like to connect some dots quickly.
Yes, please.
Please.
That doctor, Mr. Cash Money over there,
Just catch me.
the school where he developed this theory or whatever witchcraft. Well, you mentioned it was John Hopkins. Quick little dot connecting of John Hopkins being founded by the Rockefeller Foundation in 1916.
Oh shit.
The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation's committing $20 million to create an institute for population and reproductive health at the John Hopkins University. And if you know anything about the Rockefellers and your Gateses, the Gates' father was all into the eugenics and whatnot, and then they're both big fans of population control. So that whole concept that Mr. Cash Money sure serves the population control agenda really well with confusing people's genders and reproduction and whatnot.
Okay, did you guys hear that Trudeau he was like virtue signaling about spending, I don't even know how much, like a stupid amount of money. He's sending this money to Ukraine to do an inclusive demining program in Ukraine.
What?
Do you know what I'm saying here? The mines that are out in the fields need to be
Yeah.
diffused, and they were this is legit, this is real. Trudeau like virtue signaled about it, that he's putting like a stupid amount of money towards diffusing mines, but specifically for like trans people to do this. So what?
Why?
Yeah, I did see that. That was real.
Yeah.
Trudeau said this.
Yeah, it's I mean, like that sounds exactly like parody. And like, how can you in times like this when we're actually getting our speech clamped down on, but it's so hard to know the difference between reality and comedy. Like,
Yeah.
it's just unreal what's happening right now.
But they're just really good at buzzwords, right? When you start using the same buzzword, well, we heard Catherine McKenna say this in St. John's at the bar. If you use the same buzzword over and over and over again, people start to believe it. So they've done that. That's out of the way. The buzzwords are in play now. And they're just like they're mixing and matching the buzzwords. And then, releasing something about how climate change affects Black and trans differently. When we see that, we get a giggle out of it. Like, you're obviously just putting puzzle pieces together randomly, but some people buy into it. They say, but they believe the buzzwords. They believe all of the narrative they've been fed. And then, now climate change is affecting Black people more. Wow, that's brutal. So if you believe the buzzwords, it's easy to buy into it. But if you don't really believe what they've been pushing for years, or you have questions about it, when you see the buzzwords mixed and matched, it's basically parody.
Well, that's one of my one of my most entertaining moments of the day is when I see you, COVID parent, and Tammy just like on this endless thread, throwing all the buzzwords out there and just hamming it up. Like,
we used to plan that. We used to coordinate that. We used to say like, hey, do you want to, whatever. Now it just happens. Like, it's just who can escalate further, and it's au naturel. It's great.
That's my favorite thing on Twitter.
and I mean, it's the funny thing is like the next day it turns around and it's something that actually comes into policy. Like, or something that they're complaining about. Like,
You guys are giving them ideas. Stop giving them
I
ideas.
know. It's like they're following your accounts like, oh, that's a good one. Let's do that.
Yeah, let's do that crazy nonsense.
Yeah.
Just on the gender topic, somebody just actually sent me a National Post article. I'm just wondering if anybody else saw it. I can't believe I'm about to read this. There is a lawsuit for somebody in Ontario who wants to keep his penis, but also wants the doctors to make him a vagina. And he does not want to pay for it. They are in a legal battle because he thinks that the healthcare system, our tax dollars, P.S., should pay for this. And I was just kind of reading through this, but the LGBTQ plus divided by minus times multiplied rights group says that such surgeries can profoundly improve a person's quality of life and reduce the distress. And so they actually are fighting to make this like I guess a medically necessary surgery. Oh,
Wow.
Jamie pulled something up too. Non-binary patient who wants a vagina and a penis sues health chiefs.
Wow.
This is April Fool's, right? Is this an April Fool's joke? This has to be April Fool's.
It sure sounds like it should be. So let me get this straight. Hold on. He wants to keep his penis and add a vagina. But if he wanted to remove his penis and just trade it in for a vagina,
Trade it in for a garage.
then our tax dollars would be covering that, right? But now the healthcare, team needs to figure out, well, hey, should we use everybody's tax dollars to let this crazy man have both a vagina and a penis?
Right. He specifically stated that.
So wait, he wants the government to pay for, I'm reading this article, he wants the government to pay for all this. So if somebody wanted to get
No.
10 penises,
No, COVID parent.
would the government pay for that too?
COVID parent. He wants us to pay for his vagina.
Right, but what if I wanted someone to pay for me to get 10 penises? That's fair. It's my gender identity. You're a bigot if you say.
Octopenis.
Octopenis. Oh my God.
I kind of think you should try and do that.
Right? See what happens.
To me, it sounds like the person, someone told him to go fuck himself, and he was like, challenge accepted.
Oh,
Right?
snap. Mic drop.
Yeah, this is him settling a bet. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Mic drop, Jamie.
I can't believe that somebody's actually fighting and saying that we need to, like, the healthcare system, we need to pay for this. Like this, how long does this go on before people, like, who's still defending this? That I want to know that, because I want to throat punch them. But like, who still thinks that this is a good idea and they should have these rights? Like having a penis and a pretend vagina is not a human right. It is well, you have a mental illness if you want both of the parts. I'm sorry.
Having a penis and a bonus hole. Not a right, damn it.
As more Canadians struggle to even feed themselves, how are these things, such as I want the bus and the garage at the same time, like a priority? At some point, we're like, there's going to be some, I hope, can there please be some pushback? Can we get there?
Well, Canada just panders to everybody else's bullshit. We have no like personal Canadian identity. I was having a conversation with somebody about this a couple days ago. We're just like a mishmash of whoever we tried to please. That's what Canada is.
Yeah. And we say sorry while we're doing it.
Yeah.
So what are we going to do about this? I mean, we have Bill C-63 in the pipeline. I'm sure it's going to pass. Like Jagmeet Singh was actually like demanding that, when is Justin Trudeau going to put forth the online harms bill? What do we do when our rights are being infringed upon?
We buy an island.
And we're not allowed to say certain things. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people in jail. I think my concern is that they're going to do fines. They're going to, fine the shit out of people so that, they need to rely on the government more because they're fucking poor.
Well, or wait until they usher in the social credit system, and then it's not even going to matter. You're going to have I'm going to have the world's shittiest social credit score. You guys are not going to be far behind. COVID parent might have a worse one.
For sure. COVID parent, you're fucked. Oh boy.
So what are we doing about this? What can we do?
You
Anyone?
want answers right now? You want answers? I didn't come prepared with answers. What we're
Well,
doing.
any thoughts? Like, where do we go from here? What do you think's gonna happen?
We blow
I mean-
up our MP's office. Not literally blow up everybody. That's not what I mean. We're not literally blowing up.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
I think Jamie was onto something with the like, can you just say that, you know, that you're joking, and then that's kind of a loophole? I don't know. That's like probably the only thing at this point you could do that I can think of. Like, other than, I mean, I'm a huge fan of everybody just going back to Ottawa. Like, I'm in for that.
Oh, I'm in for that too. At the end of the day, like, we need to push back at that level to stop it from passing in the first place.
Yeah, we do. And I think like Canadians really need to start getting pissed off, because they're going to own nothing and they're not going to be happy.
They could be fucking pissed.
What are you talking about? Trudeau said we were going to be happy.
Yeah.
He lied.
This is going to be, it's going to become a problem, and it's going to be too late at that point if people don't start doing something. So I think for how quickly we saw the mandates turn around, even though they'll never admit it was because of the convoy, I think that Canadians need to band together, and like everybody possible needs to go to Ottawa. I know I would be down in a heartbeat.
I totally agree. And I think one of the things that's important is to like raise awareness. I don't think that people are realizing the scope of this.
Yeah.
Like, tweet it, you know, or post it on X, whatever, do whatever you have to do. Tell your friends, tell your family, just get people asking questions, make jokes,
Yep.
do whatever you have to do to just raise some awareness so that people realize. There's some speculation that this bill isn't designed to pass. It's more of like an intro to what they really want. I don't know if that's true or not, but like, if let's assume that it's going to pass, the only way to oppose it is to inform people, tell people what it means, let people know how much scope it has and how much power it has, and get people scared. And then, yeah, Convoy 2.0 is probably no problem to organize, but people need to be aware that it's not just about protecting kids online like they're hearing on CBC. There's a lot more to this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Are you telling me that the Church of CBC of Latter-day Broadcast is lying to us?
No, sorry. I was briefly held hostage by a Russian trucker who was intent on spreading misinformation and disinformation and malinformation and climate change. So no, the CBC is great, and everything I see on the CBC is accurate 100%. And we should give them more money and pay more climate taxes to help the trans community.
Okay, phew. I was worried.
I'm still laughing at the Church of CBC Latter-day Saints.
Of Latter-day Broadcast, yeah.
Sorry.
That one came out one night when me and COVID parent were doing a thread back and forth.
Oh my God.
Oh man, when you guys
It's a staple now. That's a good. I love that one. Yeah.
when you guys get going, it's so funny.
It's honestly, it's almost never planned now, but I will say when it does happen, most of the time I'm like on my couch in tears laughing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes it's hard to escalate because it gets so insane. It's hard to take the next step, but when you get there, it's funny. And then you beat me on the next step. I'm like, oh my God, how do I beat this one? It's entertaining.
It becomes a game. And Jag's Hypocrisy has started joining in too, which has been pretty awesome.
Yeah, he's good. That's a good account too. Everyone should follow that one. What's it? At Sing Hypocrisy, I think, is the actual at.
Yeah, he's got some good jokes.
Well, the next time you guys do it, tag us in. Let's have a party.
So I guess we're getting close to like the wind down point, but basically like what I wanted to kind of round out with this whole thing, like it seems like a strange thing to go from, talking about comedy down to, David Reimer. But the point is that we need to be able to talk about these things in order to understand that what we're being told isn't necessarily the truth. And one of the ways that we can do that is through satire, irony, and comedy. So, I think it's such an important aspect of our society to be able to joke around And it really is cathartic. Like I'm saying with COVID Parent and Tammy, like watching you guys back and forth, it's ridiculous, but it makes my day. Like we need the levity, especially in these dark times, and I know that's specifically why they want to shut down our ability to have fun with each other. I mean, even look at what happened in Ottawa.
Yeah.
The use of humor to combat all of the draconian measures that were being put in place was just lovely. Like it was just amazing.
I think too, one thing that people need to be aware of is um comedy fosters a sense of community amongst people, and
Mm.
I think that we all kind of came to Twitter, and in the very early days, all that we really had was to make jokes about it, and that really did create the community that we know now on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. And when they take that away, it takes away the ability to, or a large part of the ability to bond with people, and that's not by accident. Go back and look at, you know, former communist regimes in history, and they want to make you feel hopeless. They don't want you to be happy. They want to take that away from you so that you feel hopelessness. Read 1984.
Mhm.
That's also a really, it's basically a playbook at this point. But I don't believe for one second that it is by accident that they're trying to remove the ability to tell jokes and to have those conversations through jokes. Just my 2 cents.
No, you're absolutely right. 100%. Everything is intentional. What these people are doing, everything.
And you make a good point about building a sense of community. This is true in real life. Think pre-pandemic. Think in your childhood when you're kids. Everybody's sitting around laughing, having a good time. You're bonding. I know it's online. It's not really real, but it's not really face to face. But it's still a real connection, and people can still have a good laugh and still create a sense of foster a sense of community.
Absolutely.
But if you pull that last chip away, like the convoy was powerful and everything else, but it was also hilarious, like bouncy castles and hot tubs and everyone there. I was there. Everyone was laughing. It was the guy standing with the smoke in his mouth and the hat on, and he's shirtless and it's freezing. He's standing in front of a bunch of soldiers, basically with their batons out, and he's just staring them down. Like that's funny. It was really, and people bond over these kind of pictures. It's a very powerful tool to create like a sense of community between people. So it's C63 is pretty scary. I think people just don't really understand the scope of it.
Yeah, and you know, I know like X or Twitter, whatever, isn't real life, but I care about the people that I've met. I do care about all of you guys. Like me, Ashley, and Sue's bonded hugely through all of this and ended up starting this podcast. And you know, COVID Parent and Jamie, the three of us were there like right from the very beginning. We've known each other through Twitter. So, you know, there's a bond there that quite honestly, a lot of the people that I've bonded with over X, I care about just as much as I do as people that are actually in my life.
Yeah, it's true. A lot of real conversations happen on like in the public domain in front of everybody. A lot of real conversations take place. So it's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
100%. All right. Well, I think that's a great place to wrap it up. Appreciate all of you for all of your amazing senses of humor. It has helped me through very dark times. And that is why I'm, like you all have like a special meaning to me, because humor is one of the most important things to me. That's my favorite thing in life is humor. So I appreciate all of you. Suze, you are doing the next hosting. Do you know what topic you're going to be delving into with us?
I think I do. Hopefully, I'm a little sick. You ladies know this already. So I did, pick up some horse paste today for my tiny horse. It's for my tiny horse, not for me. So hopefully it works, and I can like be the host next time. Hopefully it works for my tiny horse. But I think we're gonna maybe have a chat about feminism and the sham of a scam that is,
Ooh.
and maybe the crackdown of toxic masculinity.
Ooh, very good.
I love me
I
some
like it.
toxic masculinity.
Right? We're gonna have a chat about that. Hopefully my horse pace works.
Hopefully that's not toxic.
hopefully not.
All right. Well, Petrified COVID Parent, thanks again very much for coming onto the podcast. It was lovely to get to talk with you and get your thoughts on all the shenanigans that are going on in this stupid world. And
Yeah, thanks for having me. Great discussions. That was. I think you brought up some really good points. So it was a pleasure. I was happy to be here.
Awesome having you here, COVID Parent. Hopefully your climate disaster is over soon over there and everybody pays their taxes. And don't forget to go get boosted.
all right.
Never. I would never forget that. Never ever. And good luck with your tiny horse and your horse face.
I look forward to your petrified internet user account once C63 passes. Hopefully that's in play.
Oh, good idea. You might be onto something there. Okay, right on.
Nice. Good one. All right. Well, everyone, thanks so much for tuning in again. And if you are tuning in for the first time, please go back and listen to all other 8 episodes that we have out there. And everyone, I hope you have a great evening. Bye, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Bye-bye.